This TV sucks. Don meatballs and Parmesan?
You owe us, Johnny. We let you live in this cardboard box and you make me funny internet videos. Remember?
Yeah, I remember. I've just been having trouble coming up with ideas.
Look, Johnny, it's very simple. You just have to use the same formula that every other YouTube critic does. Take a game from your childhood you're still pissed about and review it.
Yeah, I guess I can do that.
You better. You don't want to get sat on, do you?
No, sir.
Just get to making with the funny. I mean, this business model's got to turn a profit sometime.
This is so contrived. My parents grew up in the age of Atari, so a lot of my first games featured characters that they were familiar with, like Donkey Kong or Mario. Now, I'm sure that when my mom picked up Frogger's Adventures, she assumed it was exactly like the classic game she had when she was a kid. Unfortunately for me, this was not a good introduction to the franchise, and it frustrated me so much that after a couple days of failing to understand it, I just put the cartridge down somewhere and I never saw it again. True story. Flash forward 20 years and here we are. Seeing this title screen brings back all the memories. I named my file and started the game. Oh, okay, so there's some lore to this game, delivered by iconic Frogger character Lumpy, well known for being the driver of this car in the first game. His off-screen redemption arc is truly inspiring. Who the fuck is this? What the fuck is anything? There's all this text and backstory setting it up like it's some kind of open-world RPG, but like, it's not. As a kid, I had a bad habit of not reading any dialogue in cutscenes, but even as an adult with a slightly more developed attention span, this is way too much. Just gonna mash the buttons until I find the one that lets me skip all this. Okay, it's B. I will be sure to exploit this in every subsequent cutscene. Starting the game and the controls are tile-based like classic Frogger with some extras. Since you got more than one button now, A long jumps, B does this tongue lash thing, and L and R rotates you in place. I can see how this would have tripped me up as a kid, but okay. I died. Game over? Already? I guess I'll try again, and another game over. See, even though I hadn't played this game in forever, the main flaw became completely clear to me after a few minutes. It only takes one hit to kill you. It isn't just one-hit deaths, though. It is way too easy to die in this game. It's mostly because of the tile-based movement. You don't move a little or a lot, you move forward one space. This would be fine in a slower-paced game, but this is an action game. You have to perfectly time and count your hops, but it's hard to focus on that when there's so much coming at you. You're always accidentally running into enemies or jumping off a cliff. Sure, you only had one hit in Old Frogger, but in that game you're just getting across the screen. Some of these levels are pretty long and the checkpoints are spaced too far out. The checkpoints are especially shit when an enemy is directly in front of them and you immediately die again. See this bridge with all these medieval rocket cars? This was as far as I ever made it as a kid. Also, why is a game about dodging cars in a Dungeons & Dragons style fantasy world? So I beat that level. What comes next? Oh cool, it's hell. Life imitates art or whatever. So all the problems I mentioned with level 1 are amplified here. Lots of falling platforms making you go too fast so you jump off the end, clusterfucks of enemies ready to wreck your shit, and oh my god, if you touch those spikes it cuts Frogger in half. This is a game rated E and we have the main character getting sliced like he fell onto a table saw. This game has two speeds, sprinting as fast as your thumbs will allow and standing perfectly still. There's so much time spent waiting around for enemies to line up. They feel random, but they individually go in a pattern. It only looks random because their patterns aren't synchronized, so get used to getting caught in goblin orgies. There's no checkpoint in this level until about halfway through. You have to do some backtracking in this stage, and to be honest, it's just easier to kill yourself because you're gonna die on your way back to the start anyway. After this is the first boss, the Goblin King or whatever. Fighting him isn't that difficult for a change. Dodge his fire blast and push the buttons in order to drop his ass. World 2, Level 1, now we have Slippy Turtle saying some shit I'm gonna ignore. Yeah, press B, moving on. Hey guys, look, it's classic Johnny Alley Cat character, Heavy Axe Fighter Cat. What do you have to say to the fans? Okay, no, get away from me, freak. This level introduces snakes. I got stuck here for a minute until I realized you can long jump over them. They can still kill you though, because your timing has to be exact. This is another major flaw with the game. You don't have to touch the enemy for them to kill you. As long as you're on the same space as them, you still die. Also, can somebody explain to me how the enemies are killing you? They aren't attacking you, you just die from being near them. Are they fucking irradiated?
Whoa! Hey! Don't touch me!
Why can't you go over this ledge for a shortcut, but then you can fall off this one over here and die? They don't want you to quicken your suffering, that's why. Holy shit, these axe guys cut you in half too. I guess the E stands for evisceration. The next level has these conveyor belts and the controls really fight you here. I lost count of how many times I died. Worst part is this jump here. You have to long jump onto this conveyor going in the opposite direction, and it will send your ass into the abyss without immediate input. About 75% of the time, it does it anyway. Then you get to this hull. It starts filling up with water once you get inside. There's nothing indicating that's going to happen, so it's basically a guaranteed death. They also made the mega asshole move of putting collectibles here. I've been picking up these element coins, and maybe you thought they were power-ups or something, but nah, you need them to beat the level. The gold coins aren't required, but you need enough of them to get into the final world. Outrunning the water is already hard enough without putting all this shit here. The second boss is this snake dude. This had to be programmed by a masochist. The snake shoots these balls at you and they're really hard to dodge. You will get pinned between two of them with no chance to escape over and over. To beat him, you have to push these buttons to shock him. Not sure why he put those there. Maybe he likes it. Yeah, definitely programmed by a masochist. His second phase adds snakes, and his final stage has breaking tiles. This is a section that requires lightning-fast movements, but the controls just don't allow this. You can't just hold down the D-pad. Anytime you need to go, you have to push the button. Then, if you need to long jump, you have to turn yourself in that direction with L and R. It's basically impossible to do all this fast enough. You gotta choose between getting crushed or jumping to your death. I got lucky and beat the snake with 1 life left. World 3 is Underwater World. Even though we're underwater, Frogger is still hopping around like it's on land. And of course, you still fall off the ledge. Also, like Frogger is a frog, I thought swimming is one half of being an amphibian. The only thing that actually changes is you can't use your tongue lash anymore. This isn't as limiting as it sounds. The only thing you can do with it is grab these butterflies that give you an extra life. Aside from that, it's completely worthless. The boss here is this shark, but you're not fighting him. You have to free this airship by going through these portals. I think there's a pattern, but I brute forced it before I guessed out how it actually works. These skeleton dogs have ears because that's how cartilage works. They look like some Halloween decoration from the dollar store. I know they're barking, but I just wouldn't be able to tell they're dogs without the ears. These eyeball guys are so gross. They move really fast too, but you can avoid them when you stand on the American cheese spaces. This boss fight is easy as hell. You just collect more coins than this jackass and you win. We finally made it to the Temple of the Frog after sending countless Froggers straight to hell. This is the part where you use the gold coins. You only need 100 of them, 50 for each level. These coins are everywhere, so I got all I needed after, like, World 2. This world has all the instant deaths and bullshit from every other level, but it introduces giant sperms, and you don't want getting killed by a giant sperm on your record.
So what got you, Jack?
The boss fight is the fucking Grim Reaper. Now this is an RPG moment right here. You start out as a simple frog and it ends with you trying to fight the physical manifestation of death. He isn't complicated. You have to get all the element coins you already spent the whole game collecting. Then he has 4 phases based on each element. The fire part looks like pure chaos, but after dying a couple times I got it down. The earth section is one of the hardest parts in the entire game. Every tile falls when you stand on them. You have a fraction of a second to move your green ass, and you have to make sure you don't accidentally go back over tiles you already stepped on. Then you have to jump over a wave of flipping tiles. The water part has ice spikes that once again give Frogger the Darth Maul treatment. Finally there's wind, and he's shooting lightning at me. Lightning. Could they really not think of an attack that involved wind? Death has a second main phase where you push these buttons to drop him into lava. It kinda reminds me of that scene from South Park.
Don't let him touch you! You die if he touches you!
The timing for the button is so off, and he'll walk right over the hole like it isn't even there. It's like he can float over it if he has prep time, you just have to surprise him. I did it though. I beat the game, and it ends with Frogger chilling with these random dudes he met along the way. He says it was no problem. Yeah, it was no problem. It only took an entire graveyard of Froggers to do it. I think this could have been a pretty good game if the difficulty had been adjusted. The graphics and music are great. I had some of these songs stuck in my head for a while after playing this. There aren't that many levels, and they're all pretty short. They just feel like they take a long time because death makes a good distraction. It's kinda like how old NES games would be padded out with insane difficulty. I think it could have been fixed with a couple things like multiple hits. Maybe instead of making 10 really hard levels, make like 20 medium levels. Just having some different difficulty options would have made a big difference. These settings wouldn't even really have to be that different, just have 3 different speeds for enemies or something. So, this isn't the hardest game I've ever played, and I wouldn't even really say it's that bad. If I had to score it, I'd give it like a 5 out of 10, so like mixed to average. I just figured I'd pick a game I had a personal story with for my first game review. That prime memory of getting a new game for Christmas and hating it so much that I just tucked it away in some hiding spot made it worth revisiting to me. Thanks for watching. If you got any suggestions for a future video, leave it in the comments and hit that subscribe button so those gangster cats let me keep my box.